Anyway, all right, so you need a soup pot. I'm using my purple soup pot, and I'm gonna start with a little oil. Now, this is what I keep my canola oil in. It's a teapot, but for me, it's nice because then I can just do one of these, the exact amount of oil that I need. It doesn't dribbly really, and so I like it that way. And I'm also gonna use about a tablespoon or so of butter. Butter, I tell you, in the pan. Really, why do you use the same things? Can you just use butter? Can you just use oil? Yes and yes. This is canola oil that I use, but you can use vegetable oil. You can use canola oil. I don't use olive oil. I've told you this before in things I'm cooking heat-wise. I use, because it's so expensive, so if I'm gonna use olive oil, I'll use that like in salads or things that are not over the heat. And I'm sure if my palate was more refined, I could taste the difference, but I can't. I can't taste the difference between canola oil and vegetable oil. So there you go. Okay, I got my oil and my butter. So I want the oil, it doesn't burn as fast as butter will, but I want the butter flavor. We're gonna start with 1 onion, diced up. If you've watched me cook anything over the stovetop, you know that I start out with almost the same vegetables every time. This is 1 large carrot. I mean, this is a big old carrot. If you have smaller carrots, you can do 2 of them. And again, I just dice them up. Now, I'm gonna give you some explanation on how you like your soup in just a second. This is 2 stalks of celery that I've diced up. See? Do you recognize all this? And then, of course, I'm using roasted garlic. If you, hold on, sorry. I gotta have something to reach into the roasted garlic. If you don't have roasted garlic and you wanna use regular garlic, I'm using, you know what, I'm just gonna use it all. And then I can just make a fresh batch. Isn't that sad? I've used all my roasted garlic. And so now we have to make more roasted garlic. So there you go. All right, so I'm gonna give, we need salt and pepper. Salt. I'm using the Himalayan pink salt only because somebody said to try it, and now I have to use it. I haven't tasted a difference yet, and then we're gonna put in some pepper. Okay, again, seasoning in layers. Pepper. So you ask how much? Go ahead and do a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper. Okay? Some people will use white pepper in this, and that's fine if you don't want to see the little pepper flakes. But I think you need the pepper. Okay, so we're sauteing this. The other thing I'm going to put in, and this is not something that I would normally put in this particular soup, but remember when we made the pizzas and I bought the mushrooms? I have leftover stuff that I got to use up, right? And so this is about 4 mushrooms that I diced up. So I don't want to miss anybody. Hold on. Hello, Shirley. Good morning. Carol. Hello. Carol, you're going to love it. It tastes like regular salt. Yeah. No, I've been using it for about a week. I don't taste any difference. And it's more expensive, so I'm not certain that I'll use what's there, but I'm not certain I'm buying that anymore. Anyway, so 4 mushrooms. You don't have to put mushrooms in here. Gives it an earthy taste. Now, when I say that, the first time I heard somebody say it gives it an earthy taste, I'm like, does that mean dirt? Earth is dirt, right? So does it taste like dirt? I don't know that it tastes like dirt. If you think cream of mushroom soup or tastes like dirt or sauteed mushrooms taste like dirt, there you go. If you don't like mushrooms, don't put them in. You don't have them, it isn't necessary. Okay, moving my bowls. Now, we're just gonna let these saute just a little bit, and then we're gonna talk about how you cut up your vegetables. This soup, when I get done, is gonna be more of a broth-based soup with chicken and pasta, okay? That being said, I know that some of you have families, especially, not always, I mean, maybe some of you, but especially men, some of you feel like if you're gonna eat a soup, you need to have stuff in the spoon, and you need to see big chunks of stuff. And if that's the case, then you saw how small I diced everything up. Don't dice it up that big. do it in larger chunks. It'll take a little longer to saute and soften your vegetables, but that's okay. I mean, it's not like you really have to do anything. It's over the stove. Give it a toss every now and then, and that's it. So if you like your soup chunkier, then I suggest you cut it in those chunks. Remember what I said yesterday. This is Cindy's kitchen. So I'm going to use what I have and make it the way I know my family will eat it, the way I will eat it. But in your kitchen, that's why I always say from my kitchen to your kitchen, I want to share with you the things we love and the things that are easy for us. And then I want you to feel comfortable enough to adapt it to the way you like things to taste or to look or how your family likes it. Okay, so we just used a little canola oil and some butter, 1 onion, it was a big carrot, so either 2 small ones or a big one, and 2 stalks of celery, and then I put some mushrooms in, salt and pepper. Again, don't have to do the mushrooms. Oh, and the garlic. I used 4 cloves because I emptied out what was left in there. Now, let's talk about, while this is sauteing, what our pasta is going to be. I'm using Orzo, okay? And so I've used Orzo in a salad once, I did an Orzo salad, but in case you didn't watch that yet and you're not familiar, so this is Orzo, okay? You see the pasta, I'm going to turn it that way. Can you see what it looks like? It's almost looks like, if you're just looking at it, it looks kind of like a larger, flatter rice, but it's not a rice. It may look like a rice, but it's not a rice. It's a pasta. So that's a big difference. But you can make this with any small pasta. So when I used to make this when my youngest was little, because she loved chicken and stars. But, you know, I wanted to make sure there were more veggies in the pot than the can of condensed soup. So I would make this. Hey, Kelly, good morning. Beets taste like dirt. Vicky, stop that. Stop that. That's naughty girl. Good morning, Kelly. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Mary. Anyway, so beets do not taste like dirt. Anyway, so I wanted more veggies in her chicken and stars. And so now I find this in the international aisle. The international aisle, where they have all the Mexican food, they have these packages, and here they're only 33 cents a package. So if you can see, I'm gonna get it as close as I can. These are little stars. Can you see the little stars? And so they plump up and it looks just like chicken and star soup. So what I would do is I would cook all these vegetables, and quite frankly, whatever vegetables were in the crisper. Cook them all down, put in some stock, puree it, and then add chicken and the stars. All she could see really was the chicken and the stars. And then there was this broth. And so that was her favorite thing, was chicken and stars soup. Well, she didn't know it had tons of vegetables in it. So that's basically what this is gonna be. All right, so my vegetables are really sauteing nicely. And it smells so good. I so wish we had smell-o-vision. So anyway, I'm gonna use Orzo. You can use stars, you can use a small pasta, or you could use rice. You can use white rice in this, okay? If you're using regular rice, it'll take a while, right? It's really better if you're gonna do a soup like this to use instant rice, or cook your rice first and then dump it in there. Good morning, Danielle, good to see you. Carol, so do a recipe with beets. I already did, Carol. I did roasted beets, yellow ones and purple ones just this week. So anyway, so I'm gonna use Orzo, and then we're gonna need chicken. Now, again, any kind of chicken that you have, you don't have to use any particular chicken. If you have a package of chicken that you need to cook up, then you can bake that, you can broil it, you can put it in a skillet and cook it on the skillet, you can grill it, you can boil it, whatever you want. If you don't want to cook, you can buy the bags of already cooked, like fajita chicken. You can cut that up in smaller chunks. You can use a can of chicken. Now, if you're gonna make a big pot of soup, I might use 2 of these. This is a 10-ounce can. You just drain this and then, you know, break it up And then you've got chicken in your soup. So, and I've done that a lot, fast and easy. But remember, on a show 2 weeks ago, I cooked a big chicken that I got on sale. It was chicken on a bone, because my kids, you know, grew up with chicken nuggets, chicken this, chicken that, not chicken, right? So that's why they call it chicken on a bone. Anyway, so I cooked all the chicken, and then I deboned it and shredded it all. And then I put it in 2 cups. I divided it up into 2-cup packages. And so see, this just says cooked shredded chicken. And this was in the freezer. So I put this on the defrost setting in the microwave, and now I have my 2 cups of cooked chicken. And so I don't have to use my can this time. Use whatever chicken you have. Okay, so our vegetables are soft now. Now I'm gonna add, this is a 32 ounce, it's a big one. 32 ounce, this is vegetable broth. You can use chicken broth. You can use low sodium, high sodium, fat-free, not fat-free, whatever you have. I wouldn't use beef broth. This is really a chicken recipe. I also wouldn't use hamburger. This is a chicken recipe. We'll do hamburger recipes. I've done several, but we'll do more. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this in here. And that's not much liquid right there. We're gonna add some water, but before I put the water in there, I'm gonna puree all my vegetables. Okay, so if you remember, I've showed you my, my old immersion blender or stick blender that we got when we got married. So it's very old, it's almost 23 years old, and it makes a horrible whir noise when we get started, but then it'll go away. Ready? Here's the bad noise. Oh, don't start it and then stick it in, because when you do that, it'll go whoosh if you've never used one. Go ahead and put the blade in, so that's what it looks like at the bottom. So stick that in the liquid first before you turn it off, because you don't want it to go everywhere. There we go. If you don't have an immersion or stick blender, and I just go back and forth on this. I go in circles and back and forth, because I'm just pureeing my vegetables. You certainly could pour this up into your blender. And you could have done that before you added your broth. That's an option. I'm a little clumsy sometimes, and I'm short. So even though my countertops are normal height, so for me to get this in the blender, I would have to stand on my tippy toes with this hot, oily vegetables, and I just don't want to do that. So. All right, so we're just pureeing. And again, if you like chunky soup, hold on. If you like, oh, I hit the fast one at the top. If you like chunky soup, you can skip this step wholly, because you want those big pieces in your soup. Okay. Ta-da! The immersion blender is done. I promise that, hold on, I'm just gonna put this in the sink. I promise one day I'm going to buy a new blender, I promise. All right, now we need to add some water. And I may have to get a little bit more water than I have. I've just filled, this is a big old carafe. If you have any kind of pitcher, a plastic pitcher, you can go back and forth from the sink with cups. Basically, we wanna get, I'm pouring it in, I'm pouring it in, I'm pouring it in. I'm gonna put a little bit more in. So right now in my pot, I'm probably, look, we'll just do it so that if I guesstimate, bad things happen. Okay, so right now, I am almost 3 inches from the top of the soup, the liquid level, to the top of the pot. Now, I don't want this to boil over, but I am gonna add a little bit more. And I'm gonna tell you why. Let me get the additional water. Okay. I'm just gonna add it. I want 2 inches from the top. I know that sounds goofy, but here's the reason why. I'm gonna bring this to a boil, and this won't take very long at all because it's already very hot. I'm gonna bring this to a boil, and when I do, I'm gonna add the Orzo. I'm gonna add about 3/4 of a cup of Orzo. And this bag is 16 ounces, so that's 2 cups. So maybe about half the bag is what I'm gonna add. It looks small. I'm gonna put some in my hand just so you can see it up front, up close. It looks like very small, right? Look how small that looks. But like every pasta, once I put this in and it cooks, it's going to soak up our liquid and then it's gonna expand. So even though it looks tiny, like a tiny grain of rice, it's gonna expand, just like rice does, just like any pasta does. Let me see what everybody says. I did the recipe. I don't like beers. Oh, beets. Beets, not beer. You love beer. Okay, well, there you go. Hey, Kathy, good morning. Anyway, so even though they look very small, they are gonna puff up a bit. And so we need enough liquid so that it will soak these up and our liquid won't go down so much. And we need enough so that when we get our big bowl of soup, then we have liquid. I mean, you know, if you want to make a stew, that's one thing. But if you're going to make a soup, you need enough liquid, right? Okay, so it's almost to a boil. And just so we're not sitting and waiting, I'm going to go ahead, and like I said, I'm going to use about half my package. This is a 16-ounce package, and you want, you know, 3/4 of a cup to a cup of Orzo. Okay, that's about half. Is that half? A little bit more. Okay, it looks like it's not very much. Well, maybe that's not. Okay, there we go. I have a bad habit of adding, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look like it's enough. And add, and then when it all puffs up, you're like, ooh, that was a lot of Orzo. Okay, so we've got that. This is gonna cook. I would say you need to keep a little bit of an eye on there, because anytime you add dry pasta, and how things are going, it sinks. As soon as you put it in, because it's dry, the pasta sinks to the bottom. And the bottom of your pot is hot. So if you're not paying attention, that's why you want the water boiling, right? If you're not paying attention, then because they just sit down there, then they'll stick to the bottom. So you have to kind of be helpful, be nice. And so we're gonna let this come to a boil, and then we're gonna come back to this in just a bit, okay? So I'm gonna pick you up and take you, because while that comes to a boil and our Orzo is cooking, we're gonna come over here. There you go. Ta-da, we moved you, isn't that exciting? Okay, so that while we're bringing that to a boil and our Orzo is cooking, and so all that is good and well. While we do that, we're gonna make what I call a cream cheese brookie. Now this is, I did not come up with this. Well, I thought I did. I thought I came up with the term brookie, but then if you go online, the term brookie is everywhere. So I'm fairly certain it's not trademarked, but a brookie is a combination of a brownie and a cookie, right? And yesterday was chocolate chip day. I mean, you know, so it was National Pizza Party Day, but it was also chocolate chip day. And I went so long making 6 pizzas and 1 fruit pizza that I just didn't have time to do the last pizza. And I was gonna do one using a chocolate chip cookie crust. So I already had it. Hello, Susan. Hi, Cheryl. So today we're gonna use what I had and go from there. Now here's what we start with. I'm using a 9x13 pan, 9x13 pan, and I have taken the tube of chocolate chip cookie dough. You certainly could make it from scratch, that's fine. Lazy, right? Easy, lazy. So I have taken, you wanna spray with flour-based spray, and then I've just taken the chocolate chip dough, the cookie dough, and pressed it down into the bottom of my 9x13 baking dish, okay? And of course, you wanna preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Now, we're setting that aside, and now we have to make the top layer. This is my new bowl. I know you're going, really? Are you still buying Polish pottery? But the answer is yes. I always, you've seen all the bowls that I have, and it's this nesting bowl series, the big ones that I always use. I have never bought this one. This is called an artesian bowl, if you can see. And the difference is my bowls go out like this. You know, they're more of a V shape, and this one is a straight up and down. So this one is if you're making homemade cookies or a cake mix and you don't want things flying, this is really a great thing. And so I finally have my very first artesian bowl. So there you go. All right, in the artesian bowl, I have put 8 ounces of cream cheese. You will find several recipes about how to make cream cheese brownies, all right? And the majority of them will have you use, make a brownie mix, and then you take the cream cheese and you mix, and then you do this swirl design. Really, too much work for me. I'm sure it's pretty, but quite frankly, I'm all about the taste, and so there you go. So I'm starting with 8 ounces of cream cheese that has been brought to room temperature, okay? To that, I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of powdered sugar. I know, Cindy uses a lot of powdered sugar. And then we're gonna go with two brownie mixes. Now, the reason I'm using 2 is because these say that they make an 8 by 8 pan. Well, obviously I'm using a 9 by 13, and I want some heft to this. My crust is a chocolate chip cookie, so the filling should be bigger than my crust. So that's why I'm using 2. If you want to do an 8 by 8, you could use half of a cookie mix, or you could do equal bits. Totally up to you. You want more chocolate chip? All right, so I'm gonna put this in here. That's one, and then 2. You can use any brand. It doesn't matter. You can use store brand, you can use generic, you can use Betty Crocker, Duncan Hines, whoever you love, okay? Then you have to add the ingredients according to your package instructions, whatever they say. This one says 1/3 cup of oil, 2 tablespoons of water, and 1 egg. So in this cup, I have 2/3 cup of vegetable oil. Well, I actually have canola oil, but 2/3 cup of oil and 4 tablespoons of water, okay? So in we go. There we go. That goes in there. And then it calls for 1 egg, so I'm gonna use 2 eggs, okay? Let's do 1 egg and 2 eggs. Okay, it's not boiling yet. Give it a stir, please. Okay, so that's how we have everything in. Now I'm gonna have to use the mixer. Do I have to use the mixer? No. You could do this by hand. The only problem I'm gonna have with this is the cream cheese. So that makes it a little bit more muscle intensive. And quite frankly, hey Susan, you love your artesian bowl. It's my very first one, Marla, so I've never had one before. Because it's a rainy day here in Houston, my joints are killing me. Like, they're hurting. And so I'm not certain that I can get that all mixed up. So I'm going with the hand mixer. You have a stand mixer you want to use, you certainly could do that. There are a ton of recipes online that show you how to put the cream cheese in there, and so it'll be swirly. I don't need swirly. I really don't. Okay, and here we go. And the only problem with the artesian bowl, but it's just like any bowl because it's hard for me to hold, and that's just my old aching joints. Gosh, you know when we were younger, and we listened to our parents or our grandparents talk, and they were always talking about their aches and pains, and I remember thinking, oh good God, all they ever talk about is what they eat and what hurts. You know, I went to the doctor because, you know, I talked to my mother or my grandmother, and they would, you know, or they'd send me letters back then when I was in college, and every letter was what they had for dinner every night, and and we're just gonna smooth this over our chocolate chip cookie. Oh, so good. What they had for dinner every night, and their doctor visits or their aches and pains. And I thought, oh, please let me never get to that point in my life. I'm here. The other thing I always thought was funny is when I was in college, the show 30-something came out, and I never really watched it. I think I watched maybe 2 or 3 episodes because I was in college. And, okay, I'm doing this, sorry. I was in college, and I thought, what a boring show. All these people do is talk about their kids and their boring work lives, and oh, I hope I never get there. And of course, I got